Hey guys, Marco here from Aviator Live CS. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about ditching. And this is what we are going to talk about. And we'll start with the definition of ditching. Ditching is to bring an aircraft down on water in an emergency. It's the intentional and controlled water landing of an aircraft. A ditching has a high survival rate, and the aircraft may remain intact or afloat. A successful aircraft ditching is dependent on three primary factors. In order of importance, they are sea conditions and wind, type of aircraft, skill and technique of pilot. In order to select a good heading when ditching an aircraft, a basic evaluation of the sea is required. Selection of a good ditching heading may well minimize damage and could save your life. It can be extremely dangerous to land into the wind without regard to sea conditions. The swell system or systems must be taken into consideration. Remember one axiom: avoid the face of a swell. And here you can see a picture of the most famous ditching event in aviation, I believe, which was US Airways 1549. It was a successful ditching where everybody survived. Now let's go back to the index here and let's talk about the swell versus waves. So here in this picture I got, we can see wind waves are generated by immediate local wind. They are not self-sustained and will die out when the wind stops. So here you can see the wind direction and you can see the waves forming here. Now the swell waves are self-sustained and generated by energy beneath the ocean's surface, no longer needing local wind. So you see the end of local wind source, wind waves become swell waves. And then you can see the systems here. It's a nice picture where you can see a good explanation about them. Now, something I want to mention here is about the GCAA Part 4 Operations Regulations. GCAA is Aviation Authority in the UAE. They talk about ditching in Subpart B, General. An operator shall not operate an airplane with an approved passenger seating configuration of more than 30 passengers on overwater flights at a distance from land suitable for making an emergency landing greater than 120 minutes at cruising speed or 400 nautical miles, whichever is the lesser, unless the airplane complies with the ditching requirements prescribed in the applicable airworthiness code. Okay, I thought that was important to know. Now let's review what the FCTM says about ditching in the non-normal operations section. Ditching: send distress signals, transmit mayday, current position, course, speed, altitude, situation, intention, time, and position of intended touchdown, and type of airplane using existing air-to-ground frequency. Set transponder code 7700, and if practical, determine the course to the nearest ship or landfall. Advise crew and passengers, alert the crew and the passengers to prepare for ditching, assign life raft positions as installed, and order all loose equipment in the airplane secured. Put on life vests, shoulder harnesses, and seatbelts. Do not inflate life vests until after exiting the airplane. Fuel burn off. Consider burning off fuel prior to ditching if the situation permits. This provides greater buoyancy and a lower approach speed. However, do not reduce fuel to a critical amount, as ditching with engine thrust available improves ability to properly control touchdown. Passenger cabin preparation. Confer with cabin personnel either by interphone or by having them report to the flight deck in person to ensure passenger cabin preparations for ditching are complete. And we are going to talk about the cabin crew actions later on in this presentation. Ditching final, transmit final positions, select flaps 40 or landing flaps appropriate for the existing conditions. Advise a cabin crew of imminent touchdown. On final approach, announce ditching is imminent and advise crew and passengers to brace for impact. Maintain airspeed at VREF. Maintain 200 to 300 feet per minute rate of descent. Plan to touch down on the windward side and parallel to the waves or swells, if possible. To accomplish the flare and touchdown, rotate smoothly to touchdown altitude of 10 to 12 degrees. Maintain airspeed and rate of descent with thrust. Initiate evacuation. After the airplane has come to rest, proceed to assigned ditching stations and deploy slide rafts. Evacuate as soon as possible, ensuring all passengers are out of the airplane. Note, be careful not to rip or puncture the slide rafts. Avoid drifting into or under parts of the airplane. Remain clear of fuel-saturated water. That's what the FCTM says. Now let's check about the QRH, ditching non-normal checklist. Ditching, condition, airplane ditching, and evacuation are needed. Send distress signals, determine position, course, speed, altitude, situation, intention, time, and position of intended touchdown, and transmit Mayday. Report type of aircraft and request intercept. Alert the cabin crew to prepare for ditching and seat passengers as far forward as possible. Burn off fuel to reduce touchdown speed and increase buoyancy. Plan to touch down on the windward side and parallel to waves and swells. Plan a flat 40 landing unless another configuration is needed. Set VREF 40. Do not arm the auto brake. Do not accomplish the normal landing checklist. Checklist complete except defer items. Then we'll continue with the defer items. Just remember here, auto brake will be off and landing data VREF 40. Approach checklist, we'll complete that one, and below 5,000 feet, landing gear oil warn circuit breaker located in P6, pull. This prevents the warning horn with gear retracted and landing flap selected. The flight deck chime for an incoming call from the cabin crew is not available. Passenger signs on, engine bleed air switches both off. This allows the airplane to be depressurized with the outflow valve closed. Pressurization mode selector manual, outflow valve switch, hold in close until the outflow valve indication shows fully closed. This prevents water from entering the airplane. Note, the outflow valve takes up to 20 seconds to close. APU switch off, ground proximity gear inhibit switch, gear inhibit, ground proximity terrain inhibit switch, terrain inhibit, life vests, shoulder harnesses, and seat belts on. Confirm that passenger cabin preparations are complete. Caution, do not open aft entry or service doors as they may be partially submerged. Transmit all pertinent information regarding final ditching position. After impact procedure review, set both engine start levers to cut off. This closes fuel shut-off valves to prevent discharge of fuel from ruptured fuel lines. Open flight deck windows. This ensures no cabin differential pressure prevents the opening of the doors or emergency exits. Start the evacuation. Proceed to assign ditching stations, launch rafts, and evacuate the airplane as soon as practicable. The airplane may stay afloat indefinitely if fuel load is minimal and no serious damage was sustained during landing. Okay, now let's review some pictures I found in the FAA AIM, which I'm going to leave a link in the description below so you can go there and check it out. It's section 6.3.3 ditching. And they show about the swell system. In this case, we have a single swell, 15 knots wind, and you see the ditching heading and where the wind is coming from. And you can see the swell system here. Now, in the next picture, we have a double swell, 15 knots wind. You have the primary swell system here, and you have the secondary swell system here. Wind coming from the left, and this is a ditching heading here. Now, if we review the next one, it's a double swell, 30 knots wind. Primary swell is coming here, secondary swell, wind, and this is the ditching heading here. The next one, we'll see a 50 knots wind, and it says aircraft with low landing speeds land into the wind. Aircraft with high landing speeds choose compromise heading between wind and swell. You can see the difference here, okay? Both land on backside of swell. And this final picture I'm going to show you here, wind swell ditch heading. Here you can see the direction of the swell movement. Landing parallel to the major swell. This is the best position here. Fair, good, and good. Landing on the face and back of swell. This is the face of the swell, and this is poor. Don't do this. And if you land on the back side, it's good. All right. Now let's continue to the ditching final in the QRH. It says landing gear lever up and off, flaps, 40, green light. At 500 feet, advise the cabin crew that ditching is imminent. This is the captain, brace, brace. At 50 feet, advise the cabin crew to brace for impact, maintain airspeed at VREF, flare the airplane to achieve the minimum rate of descent at touchdown, maintain 200 to 300 feet per minute rate of descent until the start of the flare. At flare, rotate smoothly to a touchdown altitude of 10 to 12 degrees. Maintain airspeed and rate of descent with thrust. At touchdown, reduce thrust to idle. And that's the end of the ditching non-normal checklist. Now, something I want to show you here, and I'm going to leave a link in the description below as well for the Transport Canada AIM. And I like the information they have there for ditching. It's very summarized, and they have the most important things to think about during the ditching here. We can quickly read it. Ditching. When flying over water, a pilot must always consider the possibility of ditching. Aircraft operating handbooks usually contain instructions on ditching that are applicable to the type of aircraft. Also, the flight training manual discusses this topic. On the high seas, it is best to ditch parallel and on top of the primary swell system, except in high wind conditions. Remember the pictures we saw before. The primary swell is usually recognized first because it is easier to see from a higher altitude, while secondary systems may only be visible at a lower altitude. Wind effect may only be discernible at a much lower altitude from the appearance of the white caps. It is possible for the primary swell system to disappear from view once lower altitudes are reached, as it becomes hidden by secondary systems and the wind chop. Some guidelines can be adopted. Never land into the face of a primary swell system unless the winds are extremely high. The best ditching heading is usually parallel to the primary swell system. In strong winds, it may be desirable to compromise by ditching more into the wind and slightly across the swell system. Decide as early as possible that ditching is inevitable so that power can be used to achieve the optimum impact conditions. This would permit a stabilized approach at a low rate of descent at the applicable ditching speed. Communicate, initially broadcast on the last frequency news, then switch to 121.5 as many air carriers at high altitude have a VHF radio set on 1 to 1.5. Set off the ELT if able. SARSAT has a very good chance of picking up the signal. Set your transponder to 7700. Many coastal radars will detect the signal at extremely long range over the water. Surviving a ditching is one thing, but immersion and the time spent in the cold water is possibly even more hazardous. Ensure that all equipment needed for flotation and the prevention of the hypothermia from a lengthy exposure to cold water is on board and available. Brief passengers on their expected actions, including their responsibilities for the handling of emergency equipment once the aircraft has stopped in the water. All right. So lastly, let's check the cabin crew actions during ditching. In an unplanned ditching, in the event of unplanned landing on water ditching, cabin crews should follow these guidelines. This is the time frame, 500 feet AGL. It's about 30 seconds to impact. Captain's command, this is the captain, brace, brace. Cabin crew actions are adopt appropriate brace position, instruct passengers to adopt brace position by shouting heads down, brace, brace. After impact and complete stop of the aircraft, there is no command from the captain, cabin crew to initiate own evacuation due to catastrophic situation. Cabin crew actions, release harness and stand up, put on own life jacket, command passengers to put on their life jacket, evaluate outside conditions and check water level, initiate evacuation, operate respective exits, disconnect the escape slide, evacuate all passengers, instruct passengers to inflate life jacket on exiting the aircraft, check cabin if safe to do so, collect useful equipment, inflate own life jacket on exiting the aircraft. Now, if we see a summary of evacuation procedures ditching, after touchdown drill ditching, check door is armed, check outside for fire hazards and above water level, exits open fully if safe and pull manual inflation handle, disconnect escape slide, guard if unsafe, redirect passengers, evacuate passengers and instruct to inflate life jackets as they leave, check cabin area is clear and then flight deck, collect useful equipment. And on this side, we have the procedures for the ditching on an ETOPS, which is an extended twin engine operations aircraft. And you can see there are a few differences between both of them. We'll start from here. Check door is disarmed. Check outside for fire hazards and above water level. Exits open fully if safe. Manhandle life raft to exit. Anchor mooring inflation line to anchor point and launch life raft. Inflate life raft. Guard if unsafe. Redirect passengers. Evacuate passengers and instruct to inflate life jacket as they leave. Check cabin area is clear and then flight deck. Collect useful equipment. Evacuate self by nearest usable exit and inflate own life jacket. Board life raft and assist survivors into life raft. Attempt head count. Administer first aid. And now, finally, let's check some evacuation commands. Evacuation commands must be phrased in a positive manner and may need to be improvised depending on the situation and passenger reaction. Commands that could be shouted during evacuation are, and let's focus on the right column here, it's about ditching. Planned ditching, open your seatbelts and get out twice. Stay back, repeat as necessary. Come this way, come this way. Inflate your life jacket, jump, repeat as necessary. In an unplanned ditching, open your seatbelts, put on your life jackets and get out twice. Stay back, repeat as necessary. Come this way, inflate your life jacket, jump, repeat as necessary. And then if we see the last two columns here for the planned ditching, ETOPS airplanes, open your seatbelts and get out twice. Stay back, come this way, inflate your life jacket, jump, get into the raft, or inflate your life jacket, get into the raft. In an unplanned ditching for ETOPS airplanes, open your seatbelts, put on your life jackets and get out twice. Stay back, repeat as necessary. Come this way, inflate your life jacket, jump, get into the raft, or inflate your life jacket, get into the raft. Okay guys, with this one we complete our ditching presentation today. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed to my channel, please do it now and hit that bell so next time you will know when a new video is uploaded. If you think this video could be useful for somebody else, please share it. And that's going to help me a lot to grow the channel. Next time, we will be talking about flight controls, so stay tuned for those videos. Until then, guys, take care and hope to see you soon.